Once again, thank you for tuning in. Do really appreciate it. Please do like, please do comment, please do subscribe. Keep tagging me in your Instagram stories. I do love seeing that because that's exactly what I used to do with sort of Gary V. It's cool to see where you end up, whether you're in a car, walking your dog, working out, whatever you're doing. So make sure you keep tagging. Really excited about today's episode. I've got a bunch of content coming you guys' way pretty soon, so tune in for that. But for now, roll the intro. Let's go. Welcome to the Ice Project. Welcome to the Ice Project. Hey, bro, what's up?
What's up, brother?
Welcome to Sydney.
Yeah, good to be here, bro.
Never been here.
I've been here once. It was just passing through, but it was just going down into Newcastle.
Yep.
But yeah, first time actually going around yesterday, bro. So it's pretty mean, man. It's just such a buzz, bro. There's just so much going on. It's just hip. There's just heaps happening. So definitely understand what people are talking about when they talk about Sydney now, bro.
100%. So anyone who doesn't know who you are, please introduce yourself.
For those listening, my name's Rani Rarewari. My friends call me by Rands, as you know, growing up in New Zealand, some Maori names were quite hard to pronounce, so got the nickname Rands. But as my journey just sort of went along, people just started to know me by plant-based Maori, so that's what the tag is. But yeah, I'm just a young Maori man from a place called Whakatane.
Home of Benji Marshall.
Yeah, bro. Home of Benji Marshall. I actually went to school with his little brother, Jordan Marshall.
Yeah. Is he the one playing now for the Bulldogs?
Nah, that's the little brother.
Oh, okay.
His name's Jeremy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was my community and the place that I love, and it's just an awesome thing to be a part of. Not only a community that is small, but there's just so much there. You know, that's like where my heart is. And
there's a lot of history there, isn't there?
Yeah, bro. There is. No matter where you go around New Zealand, there's always some history there, but. There was just like me growing up in that place, especially with my family. We didn't have much, bro. Like my mum was always at the op shops, and my parents didn't have a full-time job till I went to high school.
Really?
So yeah, bro, there was, that's what I started to notice, that although we didn't have much, we always had like a house full of love. There was always food on the table. It was just the essentials. But that's what I now look back on and like I'm so grateful for, because no matter that we didn't have much in terms of materialistics, bro, we just had everything that we needed. And my childhood and growing up in that space, bro, I'm just so grateful for it now, because it's instilled those sort of values in me, and I can feel it, you know, at this stage of my life.
Do you know what? A sort of battle hardened you coming from a small town when you don't have sort of much as well. Because I've bumped into kids that grown up with a lot of money and like they're kind of soft. Like they have like one little thing that goes wrong, and a lot of them moved into business because their dad's been good at business, and they move into entrepreneurship, and the first thing that fucks up, they're like, oh, like what do I do here? What do I do here? So I feel like we're growing up in New Zealand and we're growing up in a small town, very similar. I was pretty lucky. Like my parents, considering my town was kind of well off, but I saw it all around me. Like I saw kids coming to school with no lunch. My mum's a reception lady at a primary school now. She takes lunch for kids that doesn't have. She'll buy them lunch, and because she sees kids in classes and like they can't concentrate because they haven't eaten. So I understand where that's sort of coming from. But a battle hardened you when you get older, doesn't it?
Yeah, hard out, bro. And I think the thing that I've learned, especially like, you know, getting into work. And because what I'm realizing about money now and finance, like especially for myself, is because I didn't have much, every time I got money, I was so used to not having much that I would just spend my money. You know what I mean? Because I was just so used to it, bro. So I didn't value money. So now getting into a space where I'm keen on like trying to build a bank or like try and get like some money in the bank, I had to change my mindset around that.
We have a poor relationship with money in New Zealand in general.
Yeah, most definitely.
Because you don't talk about it because no one has it.
Yeah.
You know when people are like don't ask what they're on. Like your mum and dad say that to you like all the time, eh?
Yeah, bro.
Like, don't ask what they're on. Like that's fucking rude.
Yeah, and I think it's, bro, and like you don't get taught it in school. Like you know, it's not something that's there. So it's not until you sort of like get out of school and then you like get thrown into the real world where, you know, you got to have money for bills and all those types of things. But bro, I was choosing to spend my money on other things apart from like bills or anything. What were you buying? Like piss.
That's all right, isn't it?
You know, but it wasn't like when I look back at the amount of money that I've earned in my past, I don't have much to show for it. But in terms of the rich experiences that I have, bro, and the friendships that I've cultivated throughout my years of of being in that space, bro, you just can't put a price on experience and memories, eh? So, but now that I know that what I want for my future in terms of where I want to go, I know I have to change my mindset, and now I'm just trying to learn as much as I can.
Good man, good man. All right, bit of context. There's a great book from Gary Vee called Jab, 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 Right Hook, and one of the key components about that is replying to people on Instagram and DMs, and I sort of pride myself on that. And that's how I got to meet Rands, and he sort of slid into my DMs one time, and like I was just replying to him and ended up jumping on his page, and always really spoke really well. Always enjoyed your captions, your content. And just sort of kept in touch from there. And actually, funny story, this is his birthday present. Do you know, like, I didn't actually know that. I thought you were just coming to Sydney and this was going to be sort of the thing you jump on as well. But appreciate it, man.
Yeah, bro, because I always, you know, like everyone's consuming content these days, eh? And like I got to a point where I was real intentional about what sort of content I was consuming. And you always just popped up and I was like, far out. Not only were you doing like amazing creative content, but like we've talked about it before, that you're relatable. Like you're from Tokoroa, you're from a little small town like you touched on before. And for me, I've always looked up to people like, you know, way beyond that I feel that I could ever become, such as like Tony Robbins or Gary Vee. But you were like, and you talk about it openly, like you echo their messages, but what you're able to do is you've been able to match that with the things that you've achieved in your life. And I see that as a Maori, you know, someone from New Zealand, and I'm just like, wow, that's more attainable for myself, you know what I mean? So when I saw that, and I remember when I've reached out a few times, and I just felt so wretched because it felt like I was getting in touch with you to get something from you.
Yeah,
you know, that was the energy that I was getting, but I think I was just like a little fanboy in the way, you know what I mean, bro? But then once I sort of like went back to the tried and trues of how to influence people, how to win friends and influence people, it was like, you know, you got to try and give value. And I remember when I messaged out to you and I was like, oh, bro, like I gave like a deeper, meaningful message because I actually sat down and I knew my approach in the past just wasn't the right way to go about it. So I just went back into my tried and trues, and I just wanted to let you know. And I remember saying like, I know you don't want anything in value, like in materialistic things, but I just said the value that I can give you is whatever you provide for me, just know that it's going to someone else.
Yeah.
And I think in that sort of moment, I was like, Father, I want to develop this connection more. And my partner, bro, she goes over the top. Like she's a real gifts person. Like she's just out the gate. But I just said, instead of like doing something like that, how about you just, you know, get me a flight or something to go and meet Ice? And she was like, yeah, sweet. So here we are, bro.
Oh, good. Grateful, man. Super grateful. I got my girlfriend at home. I was like, he flew over just to come see me. You're taking me for granted at home. Telling me to get away. Get away, you're annoying. No, so I sort of got to, first time I met you sort of yesterday, come through the door. You've left a very big impression on me and on my girlfriend. Sort of invited him over for dinner. He come through and he goes, I love being in the kitchen. I was like, oh, do you want to cook for us? Jumped at the opportunity. And we'll move into sort of veganism, but cooked vegan nachos last night. Fuck, they were all time. They're actually really, really good. So we were stoked with that and left a really good impression on my girlfriend. She wouldn't stop talking about you afterwards. So I feel like the impact you can leave, like first impressions count, and you've left a great one on us. And
I appreciate that, bro.
Do really appreciate that. Got to hang out with you yesterday. Wasn't too sure. I was like, I don't know, like I can hang around with a guy for a whole day, you know what I mean? But fuck, you've been a really good dude, and we've eaten some good food, and I'm looking forward to hanging out today. So how did your transition into being a vegan, Maori and vegan? You don't hear those words together too often. There's a lot of negative connotations around vegan through extremists, like people that are extremists that shove it down your throat. I know that happens across a lot of different like avenues, including religion and stuff like that. But let's talk about your journey into that. Yeah, bro.
So like you said, being Maori and being vegan or plant-based, it's definitely not something that you'd see working well together. But I didn't go into veganism for health. It wasn't for the environment. It wasn't for all the other reasons. It was literally out of a question mark. It was just curious because all of 2017, bro, I made a conscious decision to be intentional with the choices that I made. And one of those things was I wanted to grow myself. And it's a simple philosophy around if you want to grow, you got to challenge yourself and be outside of your comfort zone. So every month of 2017, I'd done something different, like whether it was learning a word a day. Don't ask me any of those words because I didn't retain them.
It was coming too. What was the best word you learned?
It was like, you know, learning proverbs or whakatauki and just trying to get a deeper meaning on those. Even like 100 squats a day, reading a book for a month, that was like a challenge for me, like a chapter a day sort of thing. But then I went into like more things like going takeaway free. And just to add, all of 2017, I went alcohol free as well.
Was that hard?
Well, I think I was ready, because I went on a traveling stint in 2016 and bro, I was just drinking so much, and my whole life has really been around that sort of space, and I was good at it, you know, like I was really good at partying. I loved it.
Well, love the bender in that?
Yeah, loved the bender, you know, like Friday to Sunday, sometimes Monday, Thursday to Sunday, like, you know, it was like a week to week thing. Like that was the only thing that I looked forward to at one stage. But
were you a good drunk? Like, were you fun to be around?
Bro, I think there was like, you know, I was always the person who could go and get the party started and always just having a mean time, dance. But there was always sort of times as well where I'd go a bit stewy, and those are the times that I'm not proud of, you know, bro. And I can look back on memories and where I've hurt friends just by the way that I've acted, and that was some of the things that I drew on just to give it a try. And when I got back, I done like an 8-week sort of challenge, and I went 8 weeks alcohol free, but it was for my health. And bro, not only did my health improve, but my mental wellness, as well as like the opportunities that came up just in that 8 weeks. And I just thought, well, if this can happen in 8 weeks, you know, how would a year look like? You know, what would that look like?
Do you believe in challenges? Like, do you like the time frame of an 8-week period, or?
Nah, bro, because I'm all about sustainability, You know, like those are like short-term fixes, and you feel great because prior to that, bro, prior to me, I think it was 2016, I done an 8-week challenge for this guy called Friesma. And bro, I ended up taking out that challenge. Like I got shredded to the bone, and I went to Bali pretty much that week out. The week after I finished, then bro, I lost it all in a week. You know, and I still trained, but I was just eating and drinking, and fuck, bro, I got depressed, you know, and I was just like, this is never going to happen again. So I started to change my values around the way that I looked, because it's not sustainable. You can't be shredded to the bone all the time unless that's your life, you know. But for me, I had other things going on, so that's where my mindset changed. But this 8-week thing was more around just alcohol. And this was like in September. So from September to December, I was like, I just started to think like, you know, if I went a year without alcohol, what would that look like? And for me to do that, I started to look at all the negative impacts of alcohol. And, you know, it developed into, I met someone who was already on the journey, and he said, our ancestors fought in World War II. You know, they went over there and made the ultimate sacrifice. And, you know, what is my contribution to the wellness of people? Because alcoholism in Maori, bro, it's just killing us, you know. And it's
very common, isn't it?
It's common, bro. And it's, you know, people are just, and the way that you act, it turns into violence. There's like an intergenerational thing that's happening. So if I can stand, because I love working with young people, and if I can stand in front of them and say that I'm Maori and I don't drink, and I choose not to drink alcohol, it gives them that choice, because
gives them an option.
It gives them that option, bro, because the environment that they're living in, it's just like a normal day. But if I can just stand up and give them that, plant that seed for them and be like, you don't have to drink, you know, but try and be a good example of that. So I don't just put things out there, bro. I live it, you know, and I think that's the difference. I think that's where the sustenance comes in to really give an impact on people. And, you know, that just developed right throughout the year. And it was only meant to be a year goal, and that turned into like, you know, a lifetime commitment now. And I'm better off for it, because those weekends that I was out drinking, bro, I was out there doing youth work. I was out there connecting with like-minded people, and bro, it's just added so much value to my life. And
that's all time, bro.
Bro, and like, bro, my brother-in-law, you know, someone who pretty much got me into the drinking, and like my sister, bro, they just can't believe at the U-turn that I've made, because now I've got direction. Now I've got purpose. And bro, they weren't the people who tried to pull me back into that circle. They were like, Father, just encouraging me. And I think that's so important, bro. It's if you have the support with the closest people around you, bro, that's like, we call it in Maori, like it's a po. Like, you have posts around houses that keep it up. And you got to have all these good posts and po around you in order to really do what you need to do, because quite often, bro, it's quite a common thing that the people you expect to have your back are the ones who are trying to like put you back in your seat.
100%. Sometimes the worst people for you are like your family members and your best friend. You know what I mean? Like there's a saying like when you succeed, look around your circle and see who's actually clapping for you. Yeah. And it's a super important challenge, but it's hard to let go of people, you know, because essentially they're the ones that care for you for your whole life. But what I've found is like they put because they couldn't do it, they don't want you to do it as well. They put that sort of negative connotation because they couldn't succeed.
Yeah, exactly
they put their fears through them onto you, so you don't go out and try and do shit. I feel like it's very common in New Zealand too.
Yeah, bro. And and the way that I battled that is I actually sat down with my parents and like as well as my sister and that, and I just told them where I was at and why I was doing it, and bro, eventually they just accepted it, you know. And I think if you just sustain something and they can see that you're driven, they'll come around, You know, it's
always
do. They're like, oh, I see what you mean now, but you just gotta know within yourself that you're on the right track. And you know, there's always a choice there. You know what's good for you and you know what's bad for you. And they're good choices, the right choice to make, but it's also hard because of all of those things that come with it. But it's just about, you know, persevering through those things. And outside of that, bro, there's like a massive light. And for me, it's just like what you always do, bro. You wake up on a Monday and you're just frothing. And that's the same with me, bro, because you know, I'm just so grateful for when I look at my life, bro.
They don't feel like Mondays when you know what you're doing.
Yeah, well, exactly right, bro. And when you just got good people around you, and I've got grateful tatted on my hands. And when I learned the value of gratitude, bro, like you don't need much at all, bro, because you have everything. You know, even the ability to see. You know, I can look at everything around here and be grateful for it. And what that does, it just instills like a frequency of good vibes, And if I just keep that at the forefront, bro, things just start to fall into place. And all of this came from just making those key decisions of, you know, going alcohol-free and committing to personal development and things like that. And that's how it led into me going through veganism.
That's sick. So a little shorter version of that for me, like I was like, I'm off the piss for the next 5-6 weeks. I love getting on the piss. I don't think that'll ever change. That's just me. But I had this whole weekend off, and instead of thinking about where I'm going to get on the piss, I ended up filming Corey doing a vlog, and it turned out like great. Like I spent my whole Saturday and half my Sunday filming, and then went out and like watched him play, and it was really good content. And like I rolled into Monday like feeling like, dude, I'm the fuck we're on here. Yeah. But sort of just go back to
2 vlogs.
About to knock out another one.
Let's go.
Yeah. That's probably why I haven't been pumping that content. When you fucking getting on the piss too much. Nah, but when you go back to when you brought up a point about giving him a different option, I think as as people, we can only process what your brain, like our brain can only process what your eyes can see. So I've talked about this before. You could put 5 of the smartest people in the world and they could understand how the brain works. But if you put them into a scary movie, they're still going to get a fright. Yeah, like, you know, when the scary shit comes along, they're still going to jump up and go, it's because their eyes can see it. So their brain has to process it. You know what I mean?
True.
So when we're growing up, we can only see like what our teachers are telling us, what our parents are doing. You know what I mean? So like for me, when I was growing up, I was playing football. I saw that as my way out. My teacher was going, if you don't want to like stay in Toke, you have to go to uni. And then I saw my other option as like in Toke, everyone either works in the mill or works in the bush chopping down trees. So those are in my mind, I thought those are my 3 options. Fucking go work out in the mill, go to uni, which I think's kind of a crock of shit. Not crock of shit unless you're trying to save lives or be a lawyer or a doctor. You don't need it to start a business or play football, and that looked like the fun one for me. So I just sort of zoned in on that. But there's so many options, and
bro, there is, man. And like even like when you're talking about the uni thing, bro, like I love school. Like I was one of those rare kids who just genuinely liked school. I wasn't like an academic. I didn't pass like year 13, but I just had really good mates, and all through high school I was just really just involved in everything Maori, like, you know, the manuko, kapahaka, all of that stuff. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, bro, and I was so glad that I was able just to be strong enough to, like, you know, say no to uni. I enrolled in Navy, but that was just because I thought I needed to do something. Got to the point where I had the interview, but then decided not to do it. So instead I just bummed around Whakatane, bro, worked in a retail store for 3 years, and then, bro, I just got into a relationship, my first proper relationship. And, you know, after maybe I think it was like 6 months, bro, I just had my first experience of a broken heart. And, bro, it was like, you know.
You seem like a guy that would go all in,
bro,
on everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's exactly what it was, bro. And I just went real, because, you know, you lose people in your life. Like, I've lost grandparents. I even lost a good friend in high school, bro. But the pain that I experienced from having a broken heart, Like it really, really like took me into a different space. And when I was going through all of this, man, I just couldn't believe that all of these emotions that was going on inside of me, I didn't have any words to express that. And and when I look at all the heroes in my life, bro, and I look up and I see my old man and I see my uncles, and they never ever showed any sort of emotion. So for me, I needed to try and find ways to release that. And I can understand why now in New Zealand, we have the highest rates of teen suicide. And at the forefront of that are men, young Maori men. And for me, bro, I can really understand that, because it's so, if you don't know what the hell's going on, if you don't know how to articulate your feelings, it's so easier to choose that last option.
Do you know what my dad used to say to me? Like when I was crying about, like, keep crying and I'll give you something to cry about.
Yeah, bro, that's exactly it, bro.
That's it, eh?
Yeah, and it's like you just have to be in that masculine space all the time. But, bro, when everything's going like all like wrong inside of you, and like your thoughts just go into some real dark places, and sometimes when you're thinking that dark for some time, bro, you just feel that way. So you just want to like get rid of it. And if you're just hearing that all the time, you can't fit that mold when you're feeling so vulnerable and so hurt. And for me, and the way that I had to deal with that, bro, I ran, like I got dumped because she thought she had feelings for someone else. And then a week later, bro, I just moved to Aussie, and that started my journey in Australia, and got there, and I was there trying to heal, bro, but like all the circumstances that were unfolding, like losing 6 jobs in 6 months sort of thing, bro,
But you got to be useless there.
Oh, bro, I was like pretty bad, because I went from retail, bro, and then went into construction, and far out, man, there's some, that's like a total different world, bro. You go home with dirty hands and shit. I wasn't used to it, eh? So for me, like the work ethic just increased from there, because, losing 6 jobs, man, like far out, something's going wrong.
So you've been dumb, lost 6 jobs in the space of about 7 months, shifted country.
Yeah. And I realized looking back now, like the reason why I was losing jobs was probably because I wasn't there to work. I was there to heal. Yeah. So there was something that was going on with inside me. And I remember, bro, I got to the point where me and a few friends, like we were homeless. We were living with someone else who had a house, but there was 4 of us in like a 2-bedroom house. And we didn't have much money, bro. I didn't have any money for rent. And I rang up my parents, and I asked if I could get some support from them. And like I said at the start, we didn't have much at all, growing up. And for me to get to a place where I felt so like I needed a hand, it really changed things for me, bro. Like I rang them up, and, my parents didn't have much to give, but the thing that changed me is that they gave me all they had. Yeah. You know what I mean, bro? And that was like a fucking, if I'm like when I become a parent, and the last thing that I ever want is to know that my child is like in a bad place. And for me, I didn't even want to put that on them ever again. And I didn't even want to put myself in that position. So, bro, as soon as I got that money, I paid my bills, and then I just went super positive, bro. I read the book The Secret, and like I went Mr. Positive.
Start of it? Was that
the start, bro? That was the actual start of my whole journey.
It is a good place to start, isn't it? The
bro.
Secret? Yeah,
just learning the relationship between like your thoughts, your feelings, and how you act. And bro, being the said, like you just got to think positive, bro. I went to the extreme, you know, like I had Monopoly money, bro, in my wallet, walking around thinking I was rich. You know what I mean, bro? I put on my mate's work clothes, and I walked out the door to a job that I didn't even have, and I was giving out CVs. So I had to freaking change things so drastically, because I just didn't want to ever put myself in that position, bro. And when all these things are just unfolding in your life, in 8 months, you know, just bad things are happening. It's just like, you know, when's enough? Yeah. And I think you got to go to their low point to really like, and if you can endure it, bro, you just get to a point where you just get over it. And for me, it was just turning into like a positive state. And, you know, I got my first full-time job a few weeks later. And then from there, I just decided to get into goals. And 6 months later, I got a job in the mines up in Darwin. So 6 months earlier, bro, I had no money, you know, asking my parents for financial support. And then 6 months later, I was earning the most money that you can get in the job that I was doing. So that for me was when I was like, far out, I'm onto something here. I'm able to achieve the things that I want to achieve in my mind. So that's when the snowball effect just started to happen, bro. But then I realized that all this money that I was getting, I was still doing the bad things, so still drinking, and I was shouting out my mates, but bro, I was still like pretty unhappy inside, because I hadn't healed, and then I got into another relationship that didn't go that well too. And what I realized is that there was a pattern happening with these girls that I was getting involved with. Is you nailed it on the head. As soon as I got involved with a girl, bro, I just went all in to the point where my cup was getting drained, and I was just giving it until I had an empty cup, thinking that that'll make me feel better. But when really I realized that my cup always has to be full before I give anything to anyone. And that was the thing that I started to learn, bro, that if my cup is always topped up or flowing, then I can give well. But if it's empty, I'm always just going to end up broken. And it took me so long, bro, to understand that the pattern that I was experiencing with women came from that, was just giving from an empty cup.
Being too good of a bloke.
Oh, well, bro, what I perceived to be.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not to say that I was a good partner in those situations as well. Because if I'm hurting, obviously they're hurting as well, bro? And for me, I even at times I was playing the victim, you know, like I'm doing all of this, I'm doing all of that. But I was doing all the things that they didn't want me to do. You know what I mean, bro? So it's
you just thought they wanted that, so you done that, and then you expected reward for it?
I was doing all the things that I wanted.
Oh, okay.
You know, so I was doing all the trying to do all the nice things, but all they wanted was time, all they wanted was things. So for me, I was just trying to figure out.
They just want to touch you and shit, eh?
Yeah, well, they just want quality time, bro. And I was like, and I was there, but I have a different idea of quality time. You know, bro. So for me, all of those past relationships that failed, bro, like although there were hard times, and you know they're awesome wahine, but I think it was like in preparation, bro, because the relationship that I have now, bro, with my girl, like, you know, it's unbelievable, bro. And I'm so thankful, because although I may have been a bad partner in the past, I know I'm the best that I can be now for her, bro. So it's the first relationship for her, and like I'm just stoked that I'm able to be what I think.
So you're her first boyfriend?
I'm her first boyfriend.
Fuck, hasn't she landed on it? Same as my girlfriend.
Let's go. But you know, bro, and I think it's an important conversation to have, bro. Like, you know, just talking about relationships.
Do you know what's
in a way?
Same when you talked about there, we can't really talk about emotions growing up as kids. Relationships, don't talk about relationships. You don't talk about money.
Yeah.
I got very good parents. I was raised right, like well mannered. I swear heaps now, but I was never allowed to swear when I was a kid and shit like that. But like I don't remember my mum or dad sitting me down and going like, this is what, like my mum going, this is what I expect from a man, or like vice versa, or this is how you treat a woman. You know, like we don't have these conversations.
Nah, bro. That's why
it's sad, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm pretty passionate about it, bro. Like, you know, when I get the chance to speak about it, because I know it's something that all males struggle with.
Yeah.
You know, like women, on the other hand, if they're going through something, they can just ring up their best friend and they can just talk for hours and get it all out, and then they can come back to the relationship and think everything's sweet. Whereas men, we turn to other ways of releasing, and that's usually drugs.
Yeah, let's get on the piss.
Violence. That's usually alcohol. So, you know, bro, there's different ways that men release, but if we're able to touch into this, like, sort of way of talking, then, man, it can really just be liberating in a way and help you to really put words to what you're feeling. And if you can let, like, your thoughts just speak, like, bro, it opened you up a little bit more, and I think it's beneficial for everyone.
And do you know what? If you got mates that don't want to listen to you when you start getting deep and shit, fuck them off, eh? Get rid of them.
Bro, I'm like real bad with small talk, bro?
Yeah,
like this sort of stuff, bro.
Yeah.
Bro, I can set up camp, bro, you know what I mean? And I can look at the stars and shit, you know? Like, I love all of this sort of stuff because it brings meaning to my life. I want to walk away from a person and feel like, damn, he gave me value, but I feel like I gave him value.
Do you know what? It's almost kind of like, as a bloke, it's almost kind of cool to say, because I've grown up in football locker rooms and that, and I stayed single for a very long time because I used to hear all the boys come in and like complain about their wives and shit. I'm like, fuck that, I'm not going to I'd rather do my own thing. Yeah. But it's kind of like, how's Mrs. And just grinding my balls. Like, just, like, do you know what I mean? But it's just, it's like business, like, hell yeah, I'm busy. Like, we just say these things.
It's just the lingo, eh?
Yeah, it's just a lingo. Yeah. It's kind of sad. Like, I don't remember being in football and guy going, actually one guy, he's a big churchy guy, goes, I've got the best wife in the world. Like, she cooks me pancakes. I only small.
That's cool though.
Yeah. And like, I remember sitting there, I was like, fuck, this is kind of refreshing. Yeah. Because otherwise, fuck, she won't let me out. Like, she stopped me from gambling. Yeah.
Bro, but like, you know, when I look at, you know, the relationship that I have now, bro, like I get to come here, I get to do all of these things, and like sometimes like I'm away for like quite some time, and knowing that my partner's there that can support me, bro, allows me to do things freely.
Yeah.
Because if I was here, bro, and things were going fucking wrong in our relationship, I wouldn't be here, bro. You know what I mean? Like, it really messes with you. If things ain't right at home, you can't execute to the capabilities that you can. So always just sitting down. I remember our first date, we talked about, you know, what things look like, and I laid it out for her, bro.
Straight away.
I laid it out for her. I said, like, I'm pretty busy. Like, I know what I want, and like sometimes it's going to ask more from me. And from the very first time, bro, she knew that this was coming, and now we're just going through it. But every single time, bro, like, honestly, it would be at least a few times a week, I'd just tell her, like, we're going to have a good life.
Yeah.
Just that reassurance, bro. And
That's
I
what
think
they need, don't
That's
they?
just what they need, bro. And sometimes they would want a ring just for their security. They'd want a baby or family for their security. But sometimes it's just, if you can give them words, I think it's from the heart. And I think, bro, it could just really be better from that place.
I remember watching Will Smith, and he was talking about Jada one time, and he goes, "Fuck, I fucking give up." And he was talking about, and he goes, "I'll give up because like the way relationships work, everyone tries to make their partner happy first.
Yeah,
it doesn't work like that, does it?
Bro.
You just focus on you, keep yourself happy. And like, because I've been in relationships in the past where like my last girlfriend, her happiness depended on whether we were going well or not, you know what I mean? But I was always on the go.
Yeah,
like,
I'm
like, let's go. But she wanted to hang out. I wanted to fucking do other stuff. And she saw that as like, started to resent that. And then like, she'd mope around, like come over, like just mope around. Like, what are you moping around for? Like, I just didn't understand it. Because I was always happy. But her, like for her, it was like, we had to be good for her to be good. And it was kind of weird. And ended up getting out of that relationship and the one now, which I'm really happy with as well. So it's good. Yeah.
Bro, let's go, bro. We're in good places, man. We've got good women, bro. We're doing what we want to do, and you know, life's good. Life's good.
So business and coming from New Zealand, obviously we've grown up pretty similar, not too far from each other. Did you know anyone running a business when you were growing up?
Bro, nah. Everyone was just working citizens, bro. You know? And like, even for myself, even get like, the only person I knew that was in business, bro, was my best mate, because he was a tattoo artist. Yeah. And even he wasn't real up there in terms of his business IQ. But now that I'm sort of starting something with, you know, my own little food services business, bro. I read something like recently that said the biggest personal development course is trying to be an entrepreneur. Yeah. You know, because you learn so much about yourself, right? And like,
do you reckon everyone can be an entrepreneur?
Everyone can be an entrepreneur, but I think the difference between being an entrepreneur and a successful one, there's a big difference there.
So you're saying kind of like everyone can run, but there's only one Usain Bolt, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, exactly right. And at the moment, I'm probably not even on the starting line, you know, bro. Like, 'cause I'm just still, like, I'm not even a fish in the sea at the moment, but I'm just keen to like get in that water and just get going. But it's just an awesome space, an exciting space to be in, bro. Just the thought of doing what you love every single day, bro. Just having that freedom, but also knowing that.
Is there really that much freedom though? Do you feel like?
I think when I think of freedom, bro, it's just the freedom to express yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like for me, with the thing that I'm doing, like, cause we didn't even touch on my vegan journey, but now that I've have like we will. Now that I've got this food services business, bro, it's like, when I do my work, I leave knowing that they didn't only get food, but they got an experience, you know, bro. They got the story. They've got the feeling of myself in that. We
got a bit of that last night. So my girlfriend's like, white as white comes, like Australian. And she kind of didn't even know what Maori was until I met her, and I had to kind of explain it to her. And Ran sort of come over last night, cooked us food and brought me over a few gifts and a bit of storytelling, and she really, really enjoyed it. And like we're sort of talking about it after. They ain't got that over in Australia. Like they got an indigenous culture, but it's ignored. Yeah. Like you could go to the whitest guy in New Zealand that's 5-6 years old. He could sing you a Māori song. You go tutu in mine. No, he'd be in there going, oh, where? You know what I mean? But they don't. Like I wouldn't even know how to say hello in like indigenous. Where like back home we embrace the Māori culture. It's so sad to see, man. It's so sad.
It's real unfortunate what's happening to most indigenous cultures. Like we're really, really lucky in New Zealand. Like our ancestors, bro, they were just so strong and so intelligent, and they were able, although our language got stripped as well as our language and colonization like a few hundred years ago, there were some real key leaders in there that really enabled that to continue. And with the language is reviving, people are starting to embrace the identity as Maori now. And it's only going to be a matter of time before land starts to come back. And some iwi are already starting to get land back. But when you think about
how are they getting it back?
I think the Crown is just starting to, accept their wrongs. So, there's
That's
people.
good, eh?
Yeah, bro. And it's really awesome to see. But when you think about like Aboriginals, bro, like in the 70s, they were classified as a rodent. You know what I mean, bro? Like, so you could kill them if you wanted to. There was it was legal.
Really?
It was legal, bro. So when you're looking at all of these things that are happening outside of NZ, and you gotta, when you're like from a native perspective, no matter where you're going, bro, the land and the environment is always number one.
100%.
But the people who occupied there first, they understand the language of the environment before anyone. So when you come and strip people from their language, from their identity, you've lost the language of the environment in which you stay in. So when you're looking at global warming and things of that nature, it's because there is not a relationship between how we're navigating throughout this life experience, especially in the society that we're living in now, and how are we not incorporating the environment into why we do the things that we do. Because if we're looking at I told the story of the gods, tangaroa, tāne mahuta. And if we acknowledge these things, bro, it definitely brings a bit more meaning, knowing that you're not only doing things for your life, but you're also doing things for the betterment of the planet and for the future generations to come.
How important is storytelling?
Bro, like honestly.
Like, I was listening to you tell them stories, and because I remember hearing them growing up and all that, like just even small stories like Maui and the sun. Fuck. It make a difference, doesn't it? It makes it like as a kid you want to hear stories. Yeah, and bro. I remember hearing them and like, fuck, that's cool. That's cool.
Like, bro, it's awesome, bro. And for me, when I moved back home in 2016, I'm not fluent in te reo Maori, but I can.
You know enough.
I know enough. Like if someone was speaking, I know exactly what they're saying. But if we were to do this in Maori, this would be real difficult for me. Yeah. But the way that I really get connection to my Maoritanga is through stories, learning about the gods, learning about the words, because there's like in one word, bro, like ngāhere is the word for the forest.
Yep.
But if I was to tell you the meaning of ngāhere, so ngā is in English is many.
Yep.
Here is connections, so many connections. So my ancestors, when they looked at the forest, bro, they didn't see a forest. They saw many connections. They saw the trees. They saw how the trees cover the soil. They saw that the soil was able to feed all the animals and all the birds. So they saw like mutually beneficial relationships, symbiotic relationships within the ecosystem of the forest.
And that's sort of coming back around where people are big into like law of vibration, like the land, earthing, all that sort of shit.
Bro.
Well, the Māori's been doing this since day dot.
Bro, since day dot, bro. They were able to like even just navigating the South Pacific Ocean, which is the largest and deepest body of water. And they navigated that ocean with the knowing that they were going to find something because they understood the language of the stars. They understood the language of the ocean. Yep. They understood the language of the winds. So, bro, all of this stuff is inherited in every Māori. And for me, it's a way to comprehend what this life experience is. It's just by having that Māori worldview and seeing through the eyes in which my ancestors did. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, bro, because I don't believe that they navigated the South Pacific Ocean in order for me to be a negative statistic. Wow. Bro, I know that they came here with the intention for me to live a fulfilling life. And it's my obligation to them to make all these choices that I'm making. Although they may have been hard, I know that they are right.
Where did Māoris come from?
Bro, they came from like the South Pacific, so Tahiti. Yep. So Tahiti is the main island. There's a island there, I think it's called Rangiatea. And I think that's where the majority of the waka departed from. So pretty much all right throughout the Pacific, bro, is where we all were, but a chunk of the Polynesians migrated to New Zealand. Yeah.
So they just jumped on and go for let's just go for a lap.
And there's different stories, bro. Like if you were to go down south, if you were to go on the east coast, on the west coast, there's different stories. Yeah. But all of them are right. Yeah. Because
obviously on Cook Island we had a guy come and interpret, and he said like some of them end up coming from there because our languages are very similar.
Very similar, bro.
Because you guys will say haere mai, we'll say are mai, but like we speak very, very quick in Cook Island. But you guys can pick up the language.
Pick it up. Yeah, it's real similar. Like even like words like I was talking to you about matariki. Matariki is like a cluster of stars, but that cluster of stars is interpreted on every single island in the South Pacific Ocean. So we all come from the same sort of line, but we just have our own separate identities depending on the environment in which we live. So I was saying before, you know, when you go into a different country or something, you're adapting to the environment. And that's exactly what my ancestors did when they came from the Pacific. They came onto Aotearoa and they were able to adapt to the environment. So they had to learn a different language because the climate's different. But they were able to adapt, bro. And, you know, you can use all of that stuff in today's context, bro. It's all about adapting.
100%. You can use anything because a lot of my analogies come from football because I've come from there. That's just all I can relate to, and you can relate to those. But I talk about storytelling all the time, especially when you can move into business and like marketing. You think, well, when we're a kid, like how do we fall asleep? You get told a story. Look at Hollywood. It's it's $1 billion industry. What's it based off? Fucking telling stories. So when you're a business and you want to move into marketing, you got to learn how to storytell in some way, shape or form. You can fucking make it up. Like you could be like, I'm an Italian restaurant, fucking my nana made this pasta sauce for like my granddad and he fell in love with her straight away, shit like that. Or you can document, which is what we do. We just fucking carry around a camera with us all the time and just go, hey, let's go. Yeah. So like that ability to storytell keeps like, because I don't feel like we remember facts.
Nah.
So like if Jack and Rose, like if you never saw that sort of narrative of a love story built around the Titanic, would you know the Titanic sunk back in the day?
No.
Probably not. Eh? So I feel like that's super important, and I feel like the Maori culture's done that very, very well.
Yeah, bro. And like most, there's indigenous cultures out there who are looking to Maori for guidance because of how things are just happening within New Zealand at the moment. And like I can tell from myself, bro, and like being in a perfect generation because a few hundred years ago, you know, we went through so many like traumatic things and you know, and that was intergenerational. But now here, being in the space that we're operating in now, I can draw from those experiences, but also be in a space where can make that change, not only for my own life, but you know, just to empower future generations to come. And I think it's a really important time because I'm able to scoop from my Maori side, but also scoop from the society that we live in and trying to find that alignment because at the end of the day...
put it on a mobile phone and make it relatable, you know
exactly
what I mean?
Right, bro, because at the end of the day, this is the society that we live in. You know, I can't predominantly be in a Maori context because we're all living in a Pākehā, like, or in a white sort of way of living. But it's just about how do you merge those two worlds but execute it in a way that's beneficial for empowering Maori, but doing it in a way where you can adapt to this environment that we're living in now.
Yeah, crazy.
Bro, I love it, bro. And, you know, 27 and, you know, having all of these types of, and there's conversations popping up all around New Zealand, bro. And because I'm in it, I can feel it. You know, bro, there's so many Polynesians and Maori out there who are willing to start voicing their opinions and their thoughts, and not only doing that, but they actually living it too, bro. Yeah. Like catching up with a few, like I don't want to name drop or anything, but there are like a few key people. And
you name drop on here, bro. You want.
There's a few key people out there with platforms who are just really keen to push the message, bro. And like for me, I'm like, damn.
Actually, just touching on that, Arisa Via, he's all black
bro.
Right now. He's making clothes that sort of opening up conversations about like social media and shit. And I saw, because he had a clothing brand before, and I remember it. A sort of high-end street fashion, but then he moved into this. I'm like, fuck, I'm with that. I'm with that. So I bought a couple of t-shirts yesterday. I've been having conversations with them online. Yeah, bro. He's keen to jump on and shit as well.
Bro, he's like an awesome guy, and like we're in a little group chat, and bro, he like really say some really like uplifting stuff. Like I've never met the guy, but he say some real awesome things about me, and I'm like, far out, bro. Like I really, really do appreciate that. But there's, like I said, bro, there are people out there who are wanting to do it but just don't have the way to articulate it in a way that's not going to be damaging their portfolio or anything like that. As a football player or just as a person in the light, you know, but there are ways to do it. And I feel if you just take that first step, bro, momentum just builds, and 100%. And people are going to get behind you, bro, because I feel, you know, I've been pondering of the word intention. Like if your intention is right, like
People can see it if your intentions are right,
bro. If you're just doing things just to like try and get a bit of fame or anything, like that's not sustainable.
We used to cop that at the start. Like the boys are like we were like, oh, they're football players. They're just trying to get more money from us. And like, nah, we're fucking trying to do something different here.
Yeah.
Like it's just because it's different. Like people don't want to understand it at the start, but now they're kind of with us. You know what I mean,
bro? It just takes their time, bro.
Yeah.
But if you know in yourself that your intention's right, bro, the right people are gonna come and support you. And I think it's a good way to filter out all the people who weren't there. But it's funny how they all do the full circle and be like, oh, yep, sweet, we're with you now.
It's weird. Like blokes who are like, "I'll never buy your clothes." They're like, "Oh, hook us up now." Like, fuck off.
But I was just having a conversation with a guy that I've met for the first time, Leroy, and he was the exact same thing, bro. Like he said, because YKTR, there's so many different clothing labels out there, but the way that differentiated him from wanting to like come in and buy your gear was the storytelling. You know, bro, it's such.
Do you know what I was thinking
man.
about before? I reckon we provide more value as a clothing brand than any other clothing brand in Australia right now.
I believe
any
that.
other and I was sitting there and I was trying to think of other ones like people might make better stuff than us, but what are they doing
Exactly, bro.
Who are they trying to help?
Yeah.
Honestly,
exactly, bro. And I was like an extreme minimalist. Like last year, bro, I only had like 40 pieces of clothing.
You got some now,
And when I was like watching some YKs, I was like, shit, man, I want to get me some of those gears. But I was so committed to my journey that I was on. But then I got an opportunity to do some media stuff, and they gave me like a wardrobe budget. And I was like, brother, I've got some, I got some cash here, bro. I want to like get some gear. And like, nah, don't worry about it, bro. So you just sent me something like, fuck, that's all I got, bro. Like YKTR and a few other things, but bro, I just
all you need, bro. All you need, bro.
I'm part of the story, bro. And I think that's a cool thing. When people see YKTR, I can share the story. Bro, it's just like, oh yeah, these are cool clothes. There's a big story behind that, and that's what I love, bro. I love being able to go deeper into things and sharing that with people, because at the end of the day, I am part of it. If I'm wearing it, I'm part of the journey.
100. You're supporting it. So you speak very, very well. Like I get credited for speaking well. I feel like you can speak fucking twice as good as me. Like, you hold yourself well. Like obviously your storytelling is very good. Where does that come from? Like, cause I can point back to books and go like, fuck, I've learned off this. I've learned off like.
For me, like.
Actually, my girlfriend is like, many people in New Zealand like that, and I was like, when I was like, trying to explain, I'm like, they are, but they're not his age. Like the way he talks, it's like you're talking to an elder. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just like so calm, so measured, like great perspective. I'm used to hearing it, but not from someone of your age, which was like, and she goes, oh, it's like super cool.
And appreciate that, bro. And shout out to your wahine. But for me, bro, I just used to listen to like motivational, like audio while I was training.
Who would you go to?
Bro, it was I remember like Tony Robbins was always a big one. Who's the guy? You gotta wanna live as bad as you wanna breathe. Eric.
Yeah, he's cool, bro. He's
Him,
cool.
that one, but it was just like 3-minute clips, bro, that I'd just have on loop, the same ones. And it just G'd me up. But I just used it for the gym, like for working out. It wasn't really for perspective on life or anything. It just made me feel good. So that's when I first had my taste of like the power of words. And it was when I started to get heavy into like Tony Robbins and of his words, bro. He says it right.
Is it his voice? Is it his
combination of everything, bro? Like, because I've seen him in the bloody presence, bro.
What's that like?
It's like he doesn't even need to say anything, bro. Like he can just stand there and you feel it.
The energy.
You feel his presence. And like there was times where he was like right there and he's just speaking with so much conviction, bro? Like he's in his thing. And when you're sharing it from that place, bro, it pierces your soul in a different way that enables you to act on it. And I think what happened with my experiences, his words were just touching me in a way that I needed to do something, because that pushes past motivation, bro? Because motivation is only temporary.
Yeah.
But if your words can inspire someone to act on it, to create change in their lives, it brings so much meaning to those words because you feel it, you've embraced it. So if I had that experience from these amazing people, maybe I got a story to tell. Maybe I got a voice.
Everyone's got a story to tell.
And it's just been a work in progress, bro. And I'm so lucky. I've got a mentor out there, bro, and I learned so much from him. He'll take me on speaking trips around.
Who's your mentor?
He's a real anonymous.
Oh yeah.
He's a person who doesn't like to be sort of put in the spotlight. And
Maori dude?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
He's Maori, and he was the person who told me about the World War II thing, because he's alcohol free. He's never touched the alcohol. When people say to him, oh, why don't you drink? He says, because I'm Maori. You know, he's creating so much like amazing things, but he's a person who's in the shadow, bro.
He wants to stay there?
He wants to stay there, bro, because that's where he feels his biggest impact is.
So you could be the voice, you could be the echo for him,
bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he gives me so much like, bro, feedback. I remember one time we went over to Melbourne. Like he took me over to Australia with him, like brought me here on a speaking trip, and we were going into like schools, and bro, I remember one time like I was just getting up just to do a little bit of talking, and then he done the like rest, because he has an amazing speaking, bro. He could be on a TED talk, he could do like seminars and stuff like that.
What's the biggest thing you learned from him in terms of speaking?
Bro, it was just about like your truth, eh?
Yeah.
You know, because that experience that I was talking about, it was on the last day. It was the first talk of the day, and there was one more after it. I got up and I was speaking, bro, and I just couldn't capture the attention of the room, and I just went quiet for like, bro, it had been about like 2 to 5 minutes, and I had nothing, bro, and I was just standing there. It was like an auditorium. It was like half full, and I was just standing there, and I felt so small. And in that moment, I was scared, bro. I was so vulnerable, you know, like, you know, these kids ain't even listening to me. Like, what am I doing? Is this what I'm meant to be doing? All of those thoughts.
Fucking listen, eh?
But I couldn't even say that, bro. I had nothing. So I just busted out a haka. You know, I just busted out a haka because I didn't want those kids to not know who I was.
Yeah.
You know, because they saw a side that I've never experienced before, bro. Like, if you're talking about insecurities and being vulnerable, that was one of the extreme cases, bro. And after that, like, I just went into a shell. Like, I couldn't even talk to him.
What's his sort of approach when he speaks?
Bro, he is...
Does he come in hard or
nah,
is he
bro,
cruisy?
He sets it up in a way. And I've heard his story a lot, and every single time you can get a gem. And if you can listen to someone, bro, so often, and you can get something from it, bro, I reckon that's amazing. And for him, he paints a picture, eh?
Yeah.
And he's got a deep knowing, and he's got a story, bro. He's done some amazing things. So for me, just being around people who are good at it, learning from people, having an open mind, reading, learning different words, their meaning.
It's a combination of a lot of things,
Bro,
isn't it?
it's a combination, but the thing
Life experience, mentors, books, podcasts.
Yeah, and just drawing from my experience, because once I got to a position where I felt that I was stronger, bro, I was able to look back on the experiences that I've had that had always been with me, that prevented me from going beyond my limited expectation.
Yep.
So once I got through that, bro, I was able to like bring meaning to my words, you know, because if I can draw back on that stuff, like that's mine. Like no one can tell me how that went, but I can bring words to it to help people, because people go through relationships breakup, people go through bullying, you know, but now that I can say that I've went through all that, and now I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm so happy, bro. I can say to you right now, I'm genuinely happy. Like I'm happy, bro.
How many people in the world can generally say that?
Yeah,
we were
exactly.
having a side bowl yesterday, and you asked me something, and I was like, fuck, I'm a lot happier than a lot of people. Yeah,
exactly, bro. And if you can like instill happiness in people, just to reach that, bro, I think like that's the ticket. But yeah, bro, I just enjoy the speaking, and I'm freaking learning every single time that I do it. Like, I don't have a structure, I don't have anything like that. I know what I want to talk about, but the first time that I like done a talk, I read it out, and I was trying to read it word for word, and you know that just it's the worst, man. And I knew that I didn't do it well, because you lose the feeling, if we're trying to rehearse something. So from that point on, I just got up and I just started to spill what came from my heart. Yeah. And still, bro, like I can sometimes leave a talk and be like, damn, I didn't do that well.
That happens, bro. That happens,
now that I just got to look back, I just have like a little notebook that I just try and put little feedback for myself. Yeah. You know, and the bro Jordan River, the one on, He gave me some cool feedback, because he's done a bit of speaking in this time too. But
I think he might jump on,
bro,
Sunday. He's flying over to do an MC gig.
Yeah, this weekend.
Yeah.
But he'll be awesome to get on, bro, because he speaks really well. But he gave me some awesome feedback, because he heard me speak at a youth event that we were a part of a few weeks ago.
What did he say?
He said, bro, instead of like trying to think about your whole speech, how about the next few speeches just focus on your intro? You know, just try and nail your intro and just let everything else fizzle out from there. Once you get that, work on the body.
Yeah.
Once you get that, work on the ending.
Gary V's got his intro, eh?
Yeah, bro. It's the same spiel,
but
it sets up the foundation.
It gives you context straight away.
Yeah.
And like,
So yeah, bro, and now that I've got that sorted, I pretty much used it here, just talking about the environment that I grew up in, because that started it, because the next part is me talking about bullying, because the thing that really hurt me with bullying is because I went from an environment that was so loving and nurturing in my home, and then when I'd go to school, people would treat me differently because of the way that I looked. So
how'd you look?
I was just a bit chubbier, bro. Like and like I think, like looking back, I was a bit of a sookie bubba. Like I was a mama's boy and shit. So I was a target, you know what I mean, bro? Yeah. But I was always an out there. I was always an out there kind of guy. But
what, the way you dressed, or just the way you carried yourself?
Yeah, just my
demeanor.
Yeah, bro. Like I was just always loud but I think, bro, like when you got so much insecurities, I think for me, when you're louder, I think it's just the mask,
100%.
You know, bro. And it took me ages to learn that, bro.
I find that with like people that sort of buy expensive things as well, like it masks like insecurities, you know what I mean? Like I used to buy like fucking $500, $600 shoes and shit like that. And like, I remember buying like a t-shirt not too long ago, it was about $300. And I thought like, fuck, how good is this? And I'm walking around, well, no one gives a fuck, no one gives a fuck. Yeah. And I was like, oh, what the fuck am I buying this shit for? I'd rather fucking spend it on a course or something.
Yeah.
But buy YKTR gear.
You won't.
Only $50 for a t-shirt. Let's go. All right, so let's talk about your vegan journey that you pretty much wanted to talk about. You've sort of just been rambling off for a little bit.
Nah, cool, bro. So yeah, started off with curiosity. My best mate, Te Honui Tuna, bro. He's an amazing artist. But
hey, actually, thank you for the gift. Very, very appreciative of it.
Yeah, Te Honui Art on Instagram and Te Whānau. Check him out.
Yeah.
But he's my best mate, bro. And he's been a vegan. He was a vegan like a year before me. So he was the example.
2016?
Yeah. So I think he's coming on 3.5 years. But because when I moved back to NZ, he was living in Palmy, and then he moved back into Whakatane. So we're in the same community when we got back in. Bro, we're just around each other all the time, bro. Yeah. Like, you know, two peas in a pod. Like, we've done Tony Robbins together. We've done kapaka together. We've done a national leadership program together. We just done everything together. Every time we catch up, it's like a 5-hour talk minimum. We talk about different things all the time. But for me, being around this guy, and like, I know my best mate, bro. Like, I know my best mate, and he doesn't do anything for just doing it. You know, so there's a reason why he was committed to this vegan lifestyle, and all the slack that he got, no matter where we went, he was just like sweet. You know, he was happy, bro. Like, he was so in tune with it. Yeah. So he was the example for me. I'm like, man, if he can do this, I think in a way I wanted to get to know him more. I wanted to get to know him more. And so I just said, I'm going to do veganism for a month. But this was in my 2017 year of trying to grow. But I decided this in November, bro, and I gave myself till May, so that's about 6 months, And the reason why I chose May was because we were going to come into Aussie to do Tony Robbins, so I knew I was going to be around him a lot. So in that 6 months, I just educated myself. I just watched so much documentaries.
Like What the Health, all that sort of shit.
What the Health, you know. The one that really changed me was Cowspiracy, because I was talking to you about the environment. It related to me as Maori.
Do you reckon it's a bias, like, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, bro.
Super biased documentary?
Bro. I think no matter what documentary you're going to watch, there's a bias to it.
So I could do a documentary on the greatest sport in the world and interview like Gus Gould, like Wayne Bennett.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's going to sound like rugby league.
And that's what I think. That's what I think about the time that we're living in terms of information. There's so much great information here, but there's information over here that contradicts that. You know what I mean? So I think
I found that reading books, like got to the point I was reading so much where it all started to contradict itself. And I was like, fuck, I could do something with this knowledge.
Yeah, and for me it was once I started to like learn, and I was even reading blogs, talking to my mate. It helps when you got someone there. I just learned things, bro, that I couldn't unknow. You know what I mean? And the journey that I was on and trying to make myself a better person, what I learned aligned so much with the journey that I wanted to go on, the pathway that I wanted to go on. So because I gave myself so much preparation, like 6 months, I didn't just wake up one morning and try go vegan, because it wouldn't have been sustainable. You know, like I keep saying, sustainability is like everything to me. So if I was able to prepare well, I know that I'll be able to do it well. And if you're going to do something well, or do something to the best of your ability, and at the end of it, it doesn't work out, you can always go back to how your life was. You know,
So true, eh?
for me, I wanted to like give everything to this because I could go back to eating meat like today if I wanted. But for me, I also put something else in place the month before, which was vegetarianism.
Yeah.
So I went into vegetarian for
So
that
you've warmed
month.
up for it,
I
haven't you?
warmed up. I done all the studying. I done everything, learning in the process, growing in the process. So by the time I got to the month of May, bro, I was ready. You know, and I felt great in that vegetarian month because I just felt a bit more open. And I was always a bit savvy in the kitchen, like, you know, getting that instilled from my mum. She's just all time. And so when I went into vegan, bro, I just had so much tools in the basket to make that process easier. So when I got to the end of that month, I was like, "Fuck, man, I'm doing this forever," because I felt
That
amazing,
good, huh?
bro. I felt I still do. You know, and we talked about it yesterday. No matter what program that you do, no matter what diet that you do take, you're always going to have like a major spike because you're doing something that's going to trigger your body.
Yep.
But for me, there was no low. I didn't go into a low point, you know, and like I was saying, like an 8-week program, you have that immediate spike. You might have a little plateau and then you just go down again. But for me, because I'd done so many other diets, I'd done the keto, you know, I'd done programs.
How'd you feel on keto?
I felt great, but I couldn't sustain it, bro. Like for me, I felt that it was a way just to eat all the bad things, like, you know, just eggs, mayo, you know, sausages for breakfast, all of that. I was like loving it, but in me, like I just felt that there was just like I felt yuck, like that was it. So I stopped that in.
Is there any history behind veganism from past?
Bro,
it's not real. Is there? Or
you wouldn't? Veganism is huge in Te Ao Māori, bro.
Oh, really?
Yeah, bro. So
because you associate Māori with eating meat, like ball up, hangi.
Yep.
In the hangi, you got 3 types of meat.
all of those are colonized,
bro.
bro.
Oh, really?
That's colonized. Those all came over on the ships.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah.
When our ancestors occupied the land, there's the prominent chief of my area, which is Whakatane, down the east coast a bit, and then sort of up towards Tauranga. The chief was Toi Kairaku, you know, and his name prior to coming onto the island was Toi Te Huatahi, but it got changed to Toi Kairaku. Toi is his name, Kairaku eats trees. So he became a vegetarian because of the environment that he lived in. He was only eating food that grew from the ground, and on occasion he was eating seafood. But, you know, so if I can look back, and there's 600,000 descendants from this one person.
Wow.
And that's inherited in me, you know, bro. And when I watch Cowspiracy, it talks about, you know, the environmental impact. And every time that someone gets up, and they acknowledge who they are, they talk about their rivers, they talk about their mountains, they talk about the marae, their meeting house.
Yeah.
You know, but if you are doing that, how are you able to protect that if you're eating meat as well as what you're knowing in terms of where our waterways are at the moment?
So what sort of food was he eating off the land in New Zealand? Like I'm just,
Bro, it would have
I'm just trying to think.
it would have just been like kumara, the things that came off like berries from the and just the other variety of food that.
Fuck, there would have been some tough times in the winter, eh?
Yeah, bro, it probably would have, but that's when you probably would have ate, you know, what was there. Sometimes you just but at the moment we just got so much food that we can choose from. Back then you eat for survival, you know.
Yeah, true.
You eat what you can. But now we have so much options out there that we don't need to eat the meat, you know. All the pigs and all of the cows, those all came on the ships, bro. So in a way, we didn't get colonized just by, you know, taking our language and taking our land. They also came and colonized by giving us our minds, you know, by like conditioning us to eat all of these things that they had. And bro, Māori at the forefront of every bad health statistic.
Are they?
You know what I mean, bro? Like cancers, diabetes, everything like that, even mental health institutes. Bro, and if we look at the energy and the vibration and spiritual aspect of food, that does something to our spiritual well-being. So if I was to go out and because we know how animals are slaughtered, you know, it's not freely, they're not getting shot with a bow and arrow. But when that meat dies, bro, that has energy, eh? When you're eating the meat that's been slaughtered in all these like slaughterhouses, you're getting some of that. You're getting their traumatic experience. You're getting all the drugs that they've been pumped with. But if I was to give you a vegetable, a seed is planted in the ground and then that lives. If you're able to put that vegetable or that seed or that grain or that fruit into your body, in a way that becomes the seed. So if you nurture that seed well within yourself, in a way it makes you live from the inside out. And that's why you see some vegans who are just really, really vibrant. You know, we might not have the biggest muscles, but all they're vegans are.
What do you need muscles for?
Well,
honestly,
exactly right, bro. You know, and
Go to a festival.
But if, like I said, bro, I'm so happy because I feel my insides are right. I'm treating myself right.
Fucking skin and shit looks really good, Yeah.
But then going back to the cultural aspect, and this is where it really hooked me, bro. Because if I was getting up and acknowledging my land and acknowledging my rivers, but if I'm eating meat, it's damaging that because there's like, I think it's about 85% of the waterways in New Zealand are polluted. Wow. And all of those are polluted because of the dairy industry. And if I'm a Maori and I'm complaining about land confiscation because of colonization and all those things, how am I on this side eating meat when there's the majority, almost like the Maori only have 5% of the land, no, less than 1%. And if the majority of that land is used for dairy products that are operated by Pākehā, we're on one hand contradicting ourselves. Because on one hand, we're wanting our land back, but on the other hand, we're supporting Pākehā to use it as meat that's damaging our land. So, there's heaps of all these things that are conflicting themselves. So for me, I'm just like, fuck, I just got to commit to this lifestyle.
I used to look into it back in the day because I used to be the guy, because I've read a lot of books, just be the kind of that bit of a know-it-all guy.
Yeah.
I was always trying I'd always argue on different things like religion, whatever. But like when veganism sort of come about, I was like, there's not really a culture that in history that's been purely like vegan or vegetarian. And they're like, and then they're like, look at a gorilla. Like, look how muscular they are just from the thing. But they didn't realize that like a gorilla's stomach, once it eats like the bamboo and shit, it's able to turn it into protein. Same thing with a rabbit. So rabbit only eats grass and all that sort of shit. But when it has a shit, it turns it into a protein.
Wow.
And they turn around and they eat that shit.
Really?
Crazy.
So, there's meat. But bro,
might see you in the toilet, skipping over. Let's go.
But bro, like people are going to watch this and they're going to have their views, and I just want to let people know, like, this is just this ain't, I'm not out there trying to make everyone vegan, bro. Like, I'm not. Like,
is that annoying thing about vegans when they try and...
Yeah, bro, because
that's anything in life,
if I was to come out here, bro, and I'm going to try and make you go vegan, and especially because the people who I'm trying to instill some good in it is Maori. And if I was to go out there and try and change them and make them go vegan because I believe it's good, what do you think that reminds them of? Reminds them of colonization. There's an association. If you're getting forced to do something that you don't want to do, you're not going to do it, bro. You're going to resist it even more.
It's like me going, buy a t-shirt, a t-shirt, you know what I mean? Fucking buy a
People have the freedom of choice, bro.
100%.
And I let people see me, and if they're interested, because if they're interested, they already got their front foot step, they're ready to receive, and I think that changes the whole dynamic of everything. So, that's just to throw it out there, because I'm not out there trying to get slack. I'm not out there trying to go vegan. I think I use veganism as my vehicle. Bro, it's what's giving me something to like get my message out there. Like when I go and do talks about veganism, bro, I don't even touch on it. I talk about, my journey, because not everyone in there wants to hear that, and I just go up and I talk about, my journey and how I got to being a vegan, how I wanted to grow myself, and then the rest is history. Because I think that's more important.
I'm always interested in people and how they spend their days. Talk us through your day right now and what you eat.
Sweet. So, I've just been this whole month, I've just been sort of waking up whenever.
Yep.
And that's usually around the 7:30 mark. I'd go for my running daily this year, which can be challenging at times. What
made you do that?
What made me get into running was a guy called David Goggins. He's just got the mental toughness of any man. Like if you think about a superhuman, he's on the last level, so when I was reading his stuff, consuming his content, it just instilled something in me. But then at the end of 2018 last year, I just got real sick, where I was just bedridden for the day. And
what kind of sick? Just run down?
I was just run down, bro. I was just no energy, because that time of the year, there was just heaps of functions and stuff. So I was just putting myself last, bro. I was like, business, get the workout. I was doing back-to-back days almost. And then on the third day, I'll go traveling somewhere to do something. So it just caught up with me. And I was just eating everything on the go. I wasn't training because I just wanted to do the business. That was everything. So it caught up with me, and I was just bedridden, couldn't really eat. And if I don't eat, bro, that's a pretty big sign. So coming into this year, I was like, I just want to put my health first. So if I can run every single day of the year this year, then I know that every single day I'm putting something into my own health and well-being.
You missed a day yet?
Nah, bro. Nah,
Let's go.
Almost. Like, I think it was like 11 o'clock one time, and I was like, damn it, I haven't even been for a run, and I was eating dinner.
Yeah.
And then I had to like finish, and I went for a run, and I got like 3 stitches, and it was dark ads in a different neighborhood, so I was like, far out.
That's a late dinner, man. 11.
Yeah, because there was just heaps of things happening. Just eat when you can. And so yeah, bro, I'd go for a run, come back, and while I'm in that state, I'd have a shower, and then I'd read. You know, I'm getting into reading this year, and it's been awesome, bro. Like, you know, I think you've been a big part of that, just sharing all your the lessons that you learn from the books that you've read. And
you know the best thing about books is you just say exactly what they say in the book, and everyone's like, "Fuck, you're smart." That's a fucking life hack, isn't it?
But yeah, bro. So I'm reading a book called Success Habits. I literally only got 2 pages left, but I wanted to save it till I'm in the right place, because I have to like go back and like you know, go over everything just to like instill, like make it so I remember everything, retain it. So I'd read, bro, and then now I've gotten back into meditation. And meditating,
what's that like?
Bro, it's like, for me, I've found like this, I got back into it because it's really what got me into it. It really got me into this journey of personal development, is just getting a bit more quieter, but being more intentional about what I think, but also giving myself that time of the day where it's just me.
Can you switch your brain off?
Well, there's different ways to meditate, bro. There's meditate where you can switch your brain off, or you can meditate where it's just your time and you can direct where your thoughts go. So
how long you meditating for?
So it can either go from like 3 minutes right up to like 25 minutes.
Yeah, wow.
You know? And if I'm enjoying it, bro, I'll just stay in there. And if I got nothing on, then bro, I'll just stay there, because when we're in a space where we're consuming so much content and information, bro, we're not really allowing that type of the knowledge from within, because sometimes when we're reading, it's not like we're reading anything new. We're just waking up a part of ourselves from within, because you hear all of these great people of our time say everything's within you, you know, but how are we exercising that within you part? And for me, it's about, if I close my mouth, there's still a voice. If I close my eyes, I can still see. You know, if I shut my hearing off, I can still hear. You know, so how do I cultivate a better relationship with my inner self?
Yeah.
And I'm finding out so much, bro. And I'm going in there talking about, you know, what's purpose? You know, and I'll go in there with that question, and I'd always come out with an answer. If I'm not going in there with anything, I'd always come out, what's a word that you want me to ponder today? And before I came and caught up with you, I had my meditation, and the word that came out was feel. You know, just feel happy. If you're feeling bad, well, feel bad. You know, just acknowledge the way that you're feeling. And that's the type of insight that I got from myself just this morning in like 5 minutes. So I've tapped back into meditation because in April I just didn't really have the productive month in terms of business. So when I had my little like incline and then plateau, instead of like trying to find the next hit to get me up, I thought I'd just stay on this level and just use it as reflection, because it's so important for myself anyway to just get my head out the trenches and look in that rear view mirror. Because if my head was down in the trenches, bro, on this level, I don't know if I'm going around in circles or not.
That's
so for
true,
me, I
it?
just needed to get out, bro, and just like see if I'm going in the right way or not. And I'm so thankful that I had that insight, bro, because, you know, I'm here. I've met people like within the last few weeks, bro, that are on the same wave. And when I'm meeting these kinds of people, it's a way for me to reflect. It's a way to share myself. And the conversations that I've been having lately, bro, I'm hearing people talk, and it's like reassurance for myself. I'm like, damn, I'm
That's
on the
important,
right track.
isn't it? That's so important.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, bro. And these guys are just doing amazing things in their own way.
Yeah.
And I think it's a collective effort, bro. Like my journey is only going to do so much. Your journey is going to do so much. But if we all got the same intent, bro, just to add a little bit of good in the world, look at how many people are the stone when you throw it in the lake, bro. That's a stone that's creating ripples, you know, and I think that's a pretty awesome thing to be a part of.
100%. And I used to try and I've talked to you about this yesterday, like I had mentors and they're like, what's your goal? And I wanted to hit certain figures in money, and I've sort of told you that, and like what we got, and we got it in speed and like pretty quick time. And I remember sitting there, I was like, fuck, I don't feel happy. Yeah. And like the way I measure myself now is like off the messages I get from DMs. And I showed you one that I got yesterday. Fuck, there's Deepening. Yeah. So like I don't want to like put anyone's personal business out there, but I ended up showing him like sort of the types of messages. I probably got about 7 or 8 of them probably in the last 6 months. And that's sort of my measuring stick now on like if I'm helping people or not. Impact's important. Yeah,
bro. And I think you're doing a great job at it too, bro, because like you're just out there doing it, you know what I mean, bro? But in terms of the advice that you do give, and you've given me some great advice, it goes a long way.
Yeah.
You know, it goes a long way, and you just don't know the impact that you're having.
Yeah, that's
you know
weird,
I mean,
yeah.
And I think that's an awesome thing to ponder, bro? Like I get messages from time to time, and it's really, really humbling, bro, because at the end of the day, I'm just out here living. You know, I'm out here living my life, and I want to do some good, but knowing that that's also helping other people, you know, and it's not my intention to go out and just like help every single person, but knowing that it's happening out there, and people like all around the world almost, bro. So because that's what the internet does, It gives you access to
makes the world
everything.
a smaller place.
Oh, exactly right, bro.
Yeah, and it makes it accessible.
Imagine being in our grandparents' time, bro, or like, you know, our great grandparents. You know, Aussie would have seemed like ages away. You know what I mean? You would have to get on a bloody ship and get there. So, but now it's just
I can't afford that.
Now planes are like flying in the air and shit. But you know, bro, I think it's I think it's just we're living a privileged life, bro, especially with, you know, doing what we get to do, but helping people along the way.
I'm very similar to you in a lot of ways where I've tried a lot of things. I think you are a lot more committed than I am to certain things. I'm like a guinea pig. I'll try certain, like I've tried keto, I've been vegan for a bit, all that sort of stuff. I've tried meditation as well. And like, just like you've hung around me enough. Like, I'm just on the go, you know what I mean? Like I'm like my mindset right now is so good. Like I don't really want to alter it in any way, shape or form. And I know Gary Vee talks about this.
Yeah, but I think there's different ways to meditate, bro. Like if you go and train, you're meditating because your mind's fixed on that. You're meditating as business because that's all you're thinking about. Meditation is when you can block out the noise, bro. You know, so if you're blocking out everything else apart from the task that you got in front of you, that's a form of meditation.
Oh, well, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not about just sitting in a quiet room. That's just the way that I do it because that's what I need. But when I'm like out there running, like I'm meditating because I'm focusing on the run. You know, so there's different ways to look at it, bro. So don't think that just because you don't sit in a seat and do it that way, that you're not doing it. But if you can just stay focused on what you feel you need to focus on, bro, that's the key.
100%. All right, so you have you started your podcast?
Yeah, bro.
Officially or?
Oh, not officially, bro. I'm just like mucking around, but you know, had a few episodes and.
When you officially launching?
I would really like to do it within the next week, bro. So
fucking just do it, bro.
Just gotta do it.
Yeah, 100%. It seems scary at the time, but you just end up putting it out. I feel like you're gonna be really, really important and sort of not just New Zealand space, Australia space, and what you're doing. Let's talk about your podcast. What are you gonna talk about on that,
bro? Like there's just been so many times, bro, where I've just, you know, had some real amazing conversations, bro. And I just always wish that there was like a mic there.
Oh, man, I'm the same. You know? That's why I started the podcast because I was sitting in with mentors and I'm like, fuck, everyone needs to hear this.
Yeah. Because, and I feel, bro, like podcast is such an awesome resource because if I think about someone who wants to change their life, but they're not in a good place where there's friends around them who they can share their way of thinking. Important. You know, but if you can provide that resource where, because the podcast is more inclusive, you're not talking at people, it's conversational.
And you know the great thing about podcasts is, I've always said this, you can't interrupt.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Because naturally, if you listen to this podcast here, like you can't like talk in your car and interrupt us because we're not going to fucking listen to you. But like that's so important because it forces you to listen, and with listening comes learning.
Well, exactly right, bro. And that's what I want to do back home. And there's no one sort of in that space at the moment, and I want to be that guy. 100. It's not like in a way that like I'm going to be the man, but I just want to get that conversation out there. And you know, the name of the podcast is Planting Seeds. So I want to, you know, I just want that podcast to be a seed, bro, because of people listening to this, bro, they might not get the initial impact on it, but maybe a few years from now or something like that, they can look back on like, oh yeah, I heard that, and it can help make better decisions.
It's on demand too, podcast.
Yeah, you're right, bro.
Like you said, you might not get any value out of this right now, but when you're in that phase where you want to grow, and you go, fuck, maybe I want to try being a vegan. Where the fuck's that podcast again? And you come back and then it hits you then. Yeah, exactly. So that's the great thing about podcasts.
Yeah, bro. And like I said, bro, there's a bit of a movement happening back in
you got a bunch of cool guys on the right page. And there's some cool
guys, and you know, I just know that just conscious for myself, there's the podcast, but then I also like got the pursuit of getting the food trailer, and I think for me, I got to try and balance it in a way. And like, I think you do it well. Like I can go hard on catering, but I think I just got to force myself on when there's time. I just got to be active, you know, I just got to be aggressive and like getting things moving. But I'm excited, bro, because I love talking, bro. I love sharing because now I'm not even thinking about what I'm saying. You know what I mean, bro? It's just coming from a different place. And if you can just have that with more people, bro, then I think it's just going to bring like more learning for myself as well. but an opportunity for other people to hear people's different perspectives, because I just done one with Stan, and people only hear him for his talking or for his singing. People only see him for his documentary, but the space that we went into in this podcast, you know, people are going to see him as a different person. And
I got to watch the podcast last night. Fuck, it's really good, really good. Like the way you carried yourself. For a guy who's never really podcast before, like the questions you ask, allowing them to speak and do their thing is really good. And just, you find in podcasts, because like you get the headphones on, you sort of zone fucking in, and you just end up opening up, because it just feels like we're just having a one-on-one conversation, but everyone gets to listen to it. It's cool.
Bro. I think it's cool, man. And
I'd love to see you guys do sort of what LeBron and that do, where there's like 3 or 4 guys, say like you, Stan Walker, Adi Sevilla, Nehemuna Skada, sit around, fucking talk about 3 or 4 different things, you know what I mean? Just around the table. And like, because you guys are all like relevant in circumstances, like the 2 boys are playing rugby, Stan's an entertainer, you're doing your thing as well. There's a lot of great perspective there. And you just get 4 like sort of like Kiwi guys talking conversations that we should have had as kids. I feel like you can make a really big impact,
bro. Like it's crazy.
And
like
don't put it on Maori TV. You're being like regulated by circumstances. Just fucking put it out on the internet. Keep it raw. Keep it real.
Exactly. And like, bro, a few nights ago there was 5 of us Polynesian guys. We were at the seashore, bro, and we basically done that, you know, and there was no alcohol involved. We were out in like an open space, and we just went deep into some amazing talks, bro. So the narrative's changing, you know, the narrative changing of what it means to be a Polynesian male.
Because the only time we used to get deep is when we were on the piss, And deep in the morning.
Bro.
Bro,
you
love
know?
you, bro.
Yeah, love you for that. You know,
not
so,
the D&Ms.
bro, I tell, like, you know, most of my, like, I see my best mates so much, bro, and I tell them every time we leave each other, bro, aroha nui, bro, like, you know, like just, it's an incentive, and just making that normal, like, not in a way that you don't appreciate it normal, but just making that normal that people are hearing it, bro. I think it's really, really important.
Sick. So where to now for you? Like, do you want to take on end goals, or just want to do what you're moving forward? Like,
yeah. So the pursuit for myself this year was to get a food trailer, because the goal for myself and my wahine is to go from the top of the North Island down to the south end. We want to hit events. I want to be able to.
That'll be a cool vlog, bro. That'll be a cool vlog.
Yeah, bro. But it's also like it gives me that sense of freedom, because I'm pretty limited in what I can do at the moment.
Have you got a food truck now?
Nah, but it's in the pipeline. So
what's a food truck cost?
I think it's about around the 15 to 20K mark. You know, something.
What are you trying to do, like a GoFundMe or something like that, or just don't want to ask people for anything?
Yeah,
yet,
I think there's sort of like challenges within myself about the best approach, but there's a cool like opportunity, someone who is keen on investing. So there's that. So I'm confident that it will work, but in terms of me getting that, it's going to be an awesome opportunity to
if there's any investors out there want to invest in it, hit them up, man.
Let's go.
Let's go.
But yeah, bro, we're going to try and do not only hit events and do things around the country, but bro, I want to hold like little seminars, you know, and just educate people around health and wellness on a deeper level, spiritual, physical, everything like that, because my girlfriend, she's really good at training. So we're
just all intertwines, doesn't it, bro?
Together, bro. So, and that's going to give us freedom, and we're definitely going to vlog it, and that gives me a chance to go into different communities, do podcasts with different people, with leaders.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it?
So it can all work, bro. So that's our goal for next year, and now I'm starting to think a bit long term, and I've never ever been able to think like a 5-year or 10-year plan, bro, because I've always been someone who can focus on one thing and make it happen. Yeah. But now I had talked with someone, and they said, "Oh, bro, what if you have a kid?" You know, I was like, oh shit.
Not the
you
kids.
know what I mean? And
not the
like,
kids.
But if I was to have like a baby, like, am I in the right position in terms of my idea of when the time was right, you know, things set up, are they going to have a good life? And I'm quite certain that they will, but it planted the seed for me, like, I need to start thinking ahead a bit more just to set myself up and set us up. And so, you know, thinking about, you know, what does the long-term plan look like? And, you know, there's talk of a health and wellness centre, and things like that, and just trying to do things with my girlfriend, because I'm real driven, like I can do things, but I feel for myself it's important for us to do things together. So she has a sense of purpose as well, and I think if you can do things by yourself, you can do it good, but if you can do things with others, it can be great. You know, and I
gives you a bit of accountability too, doesn't it?
Exactly right, bro. So beyond that, not too sure, bro, but I ponder the word legacy. And
legacy over currency, Gary V.
Yeah,
special.
bro. And, you know, there used to be a time where all I used to think about, bro, was like goals and what my purpose is. But as soon as soon as that changed into legacy,
Yeah.
bro, it changed my mindset. You know what I mean?
You think longer term, don't you?
Bro, you're already cultivating a better relationship with death. You know what I mean? Because you're already thinking about after. You know, and sometimes when you're thinking about your purpose and then the thought of dying comes in, because that's the one thing that's guaranteed in your life. As soon as you
100%.
come in, the only thing that is certain from the time you're alive is that you're gonna die.
And pay
You know?
tax.
Yeah, bro. So for me, it was just like changing my mindset from purpose driven to being a legacy. And I feel when I ponder my legacy, I think about the values and the qualities that I want to leave behind and the impact that I want to have. And we touched on it. Like, I want to be that stone, bro, that is thrown into a still lake.
Yeah.
And I want to be the person that has been able to create ripples.
Yeah.
And from that, like, you know, you talk about it a lot about reverse engineering. Well, if that's what I want to do, what do I need to do in order for that to be fulfilled? And then all of these things, like, you know, doing the food trailer, like all of these things have just come to play because I've focused on that one thought.
Sick. The way I see you being really big, like really successful. Very similar, like in this podcast space, in this vlogging space, and helping a lot of people. I feel like you're gonna be that guy. I genuinely do. Like I've hung around you for 24 hours. You've left a really, really big impact on me. I wish I could hang around you more, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's been all the time, but yeah. So we're gonna wrap this up. We're gonna shoot off to another podcast. We're gonna jump on another one later. It's gonna be yours. So we're fucking talking all day.
Yeah, let's go.
But where can people find you?
Basically everything: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, just plant-based Maori.
Check him out. He's pumping out really good content as well. Does guest speaking as well. Hit him up for that. Like I said, there's not too many people I hang around and I'm inspired by. I've hung around for 24 hours and he's been big motivation for me. So make sure you do book him for guest speaking and all that. Yeah, let's jump on the podcast later.
My bro, appreciate your time and everything that you're doing, brother Ice.
No worries.
My man.
Later.
Cheers.